Ahead of Prime Minister Modi's America visit, US Ambassador to India Eric Garcetti has spoken to India today. In an exclusive conversation with our Foreign Affairs editor Geeta Mohan, the US Ambassador spoke about the strategic and diplomatic ties between India and the United States of America. Listen in.
This is an India Today. This is an India Today exclusive. I'm being joined by the US Ambassador to India, Ambassador Eric Garcetti. Welcome to India. Welcome again, because you've been here many times before.
Yes.
You come at a very opportune time. This is going to be at a time when Prime Minister Narendra Modi will set off for the United States of America for his first state visit. What's the flavor of the visit?
Well, I think more than anything, the visit will reflect the warmth between our people. Not just between Prime Minister Modi and, of course, President Biden, who see each other all the time, are good friends. We're just in Japan together, now Washington. We'll be here in Delhi later in the end of the summer. But I think it's the warmth of the people. It's the natural ties that we have that have really developed over a couple decades now, drawing our people closer together and now our governments closer together on everything from defense and a strategic partnership to our economy, to our people, and our work to protect this planet.
It's a natural course. You say, you know, it's all about the people, but it's not been a very easy relationship in some quarters when it comes to defense cooperation, technology transfer, but we're seeing a lot of that. Among the deliverables, we're seeing the GE414 jet engine that would be a part of the deliverable in terms of cooperation as also technology transfer. Do you see the Congress back Biden administration on this front?
Absolutely. You know, in a country where oftentimes we're too divided in the United States on too many small things, this big thing unites us. Republican, Democrat, the House, the Senate, and the President are united about India being a close and closer friend, that this is a relationship between people, not just between states. And it actually hasn't been difficult. I've been here just 2 months, but I've watched from decades ago where there was really no close relationship between our governments to now, where my honest answer is we're leaning in more closely with technology, more closely with weapon systems, more closely with training and exercises than sometimes our longtime allies. So it really is that we see an Indo-Pacific future together. We understand we have the same values as two democracies, and we also want to have the same interests of making sure everything from supply chains to the open commerce of the seas is secured by these two powerhouses on both sides of the Indo-Pacific.
We've seen a lot of trouble on the domestic front in the United States of America when it comes to really getting people together from both parties, both quarters. Do you see that percolate into foreign policy at all, particularly to do with India?
Right.
We've seen the debt ceiling crisis, we've seen your own confirmation, and now foreign policy?
Democracy is hard. Democracy is hard in any country, but it's much better than the alternative. And I think India, as the largest democracy, the United States is the oldest and second largest democracy, share from a place of humility, knowing these things are difficult, an ability to speak, talk these things out, settle differences, and move forward. We can sometimes seem divided in the United States, but we just have an announced accord on the debt ceiling. The last 2 years, we've had the most productive legislative sessions in my life on everything from CHIPS Act to allow us to be competitive and make sure that future technologies are secured by democratic countries, to the largest investment in climate change, combating with the IRA, which was our ability to be able to go in and to invest in future fuels, reduce the suffering that people have today from climate change. So I'm quite optimistic, not just about our ability to get things done in America, but this relationship unites Americans. I think all Americans know that India and Indians are close to us as a people and a country, and that, you know, the strength, the mind, the hearts of these two countries together will be an unstoppable force for good, for peace, for prosperity, for our planet, and for our people.
Let's talk about a few concerns, two concerns primarily, beginning with China.
Yep.
A concern for the United States of America, but more so for India today, given the border situation and the fact that China remains indispensable in the global supply chain. Having said that, India has its own concerns when it comes to Bangladesh. Visa restrictions by US for Bangladesh could be a concern for India, because if Sheikh Hasina is toppled, we will have a government that's very close to Pakistan. extremists will start propping up again in the northeast. That's a concern for India. Will that be taken into account when the two have the conversations on Bangladesh and the visa restrictions?
I think America is not concerned just about having great relationships with India, but that India feels safe and secure in the region and globally. The Indo-Pacific really is about the way that we're tied together, that it isn't just two nations. Take the Quad, for instance, having Australia and Japan involved in these conversations. It's not about finding a common enemy. It's about finding a common purpose, a way forward, the ways to make sure that everything from our defense production and exercises to our supply chains are never overly dependent on any one place. We would love to welcome China into a more peaceful stance, better relations, as I'm sure India would. But in the meantime, where we come together is understanding that the U.S.-India relationship should never depend on any third party. We're not united by opposition. We're united by friendship. Whether it's in Bangladesh, whether it's China, those interests in the Indian Ocean and seeing India's leadership, sometimes we will lead in the front, sometimes side by side. And we've also said to our Indian counterparts, where you lead in front, we also are ready to follow. And that's an important change. In the past, sometimes one country would talk down to another, only look at these things strategically. There's a deepening of our relationship that really is about both that friendship and an understanding of respecting each other as well.
The other concern, Ambassador Garcetti, if I may, is with regards to the statements you made on human rights situation, U.S. State Department report. I know you've been saying that there are lessons to learn from it all for the United States of America as much as it is for India. But do you stand by your own report? India has rejected it. India says that it is biased and motivated. But do you stand by it, and is that something that will be part of your conversations from here on when you meet your counterparts?
Of course. We will continue to engage as friends. And democracies are tough. We come from a place of humility, where I see, as a mayor of a big city for 10 years, we have hate crimes, we have religious hatred that happens. It's not whether these things happen, it's how we react to them, and how we can, both as democracies, have mature discussions that lessen the suffering that people have, and promote a sense, not just in our countries, but in the world, of everybody belonging. When people don't belong, oftentimes we see violence. When people have a sense of belonging and a sense of participation, that can reduce violence. So this independent report comes out each year, points out not just some of the things that have gone wrong, but also the good reactions to bad things. And those are learning lessons for us as a nation, for India, for any other nation moving forward.
So you do stand by it?
It's an independent commission. It's not my report. And it just lists facts of things that happen. And we'll continue to engage on those, but engage as friends.
On that note, thank you so much for joining us here
on India
Today.
Indeed, great to be with you. Thank you.